Morning, everyone. Welcome back to the cabin. We're here on Civic Long Weekend, and we're going to do the solar system. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. So I'll go through that just shortly. These are the panels. We have 6 of those, like I was explaining before. So each 480 watts, and those will go on the roof. On this side, we've got nice southwestern exposure. The rails that are going to mount those are here. We just have a little bit of figuring out how to do that with the ribs on the roof and how we want to mount that. And so anyways, 2,800 watts of solar panels. So those will work nicely. We'll go inside and we'll explain what else I'm going to do inside. We still have a little bit of electrical before we can connect this system up. Okay, so we're inside here now. I've gotten the electrical done mostly. Lights are mounted, outlets are mounted, switches are mounted, and what remains is the front porch lights, the security lights, and the outside outlets. So that will complete the wiring from the AC side of things. Now, the next part is to finish wiring in the panel and the battery and the charge controller. So the panel's almost there. We just need to run the power into it. For that, I have 6 gauge wire that will go from the charge controller up to that. And down here is our 48 volt battery. I have to wire that into some fuses and some bus bars, and from there into the charge controller as well. The solar panels, like I mentioned outside, we'll run the wiring in through the eave and then down into the utility closet here. And those will connect up to the charge controller inverter also. So yeah, this is all going to come together in the next couple days. Super excited about it. And we'll let you follow along, show you little snippets of what I do, and I'll try to explain as much as I can. Yeah, so we got my brother, my dad and I, we have the rails mounted now for the solar panels. So those went down fairly good. We missed a few of the rafters. We had to go in at an angle with a few of the screws, but they're 4-inch screws. We used some roofing tar and a 2-inch washer on each anchor point. 3 anchor points on the short rails, the 10-foot rails, and 4 anchor points on the 14-foot rails. So the panels will be portrait on this layout, so that'll be next. Okay, so here my brother and I are mounting the solar panels. We went with the kinetic solar racking system for this, and on each of the rails there is a bracket which clamps down on top of the panel frame. So once we had the first panel square and straight fastened down with the end clamps, it was just a matter of mounting the next panel, and obviously remembering to connect the wire from the first panel to the next panel and then onwards to the third panel. For our system, we will be wiring 6 panels in 2 groups of 3 in series, and I went with this configuration to maximize the voltage of each string but stay comfortably below the 250 volt maximum limit of the charge controller. And it went really well having my dad on the ground helping us pass the panels up there. They weren't heavy, but they were awkward, and also reaching down in between the panel as I'm doing here to connect the 2 wires was difficult, but manageable. To connect each of the string into the cabin, I had purchased 30-foot 10 gauge solar panel wire, specific to handle the the hot and the cold and in the sunlight. And later on, I spent some time securing all the wires so they weren't touching the roof, to avoid any debris getting caught on them or them rubbing through on the over time, so that they'll last as long as possible. Yeah, so here we are, just finishing up the last panel of the first string. I connect the extension cable here now, and then we'll secure that panel down to the roof and move on to the next string. So this system has this racking system has rails that you can feed the wire through, which was really convenient, and kept the wire rather neat. And as I mentioned earlier, we ran the wire in through the E-vent approximately where I'm standing here. We do that later, and I apologize I didn't get the video of that, but we were able to do that, and then I siliconed and spray foamed around that. So yeah, all in all, the panels went on the roof pretty smoothly. So I'm just going to show you how I do this. I got a little 1x3 that keeps this box away from the stud, just because it's got a flange on the front side, and if I was to try to screw that in there, it would break the flange off if it was mounted right there, or I'd have to cut it off. So anyways, we'll do that, and we mark in behind there. I've already got that done. Now I'll come with my hole saw on the drill, and I use the jigsaw to cut the rest of it out. I'll show you what that looks like after I'm done. So I have the holes cut in the 4 corners. Now I'll use the skill saw to cut the straight edges. There we go. We got the hole cut for the outlet box, and now I'll mount that. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're putting in some outside outlets. I got 2 done so far, complete with the little weatherproof covers. And so I'll show you also in the inside, we're using a weatherproof box as well. So they have all the foam around the inlets for the wiring. Reminder, I'm not an electrician, so I'm doing the best I can here and with the knowledge I have, which is pretty extensive, but definitely not an electrician. So you can see my wires aren't exactly as neat as they could be. But anyways, we're getting her done, and I'll come back here and I'll spray foam in around here as well, making sure that we have a airtight seal, and then I'll caulk around the outside as well. Good morning, everyone. Back here at the cabin, got 1 security light installed right there at the front by the door here, and I put the other one way back here at the corner. So it'll shine out onto the driveway and maybe eventual little picnic area that we're going to do under that white pine tree. So that'll be nice. Both of these are LED. They went in pretty good. Not too difficult. We'll probably have to adjust where I have those lights pointed, but for now, it looks okay. Going to install the charge controller now in the utility closet. I have the panel here wired. I have the AC in for that. 6-gauge wire. I have the breakers in, all the outlets and circuits wired into that. So we'll mount the charge controller here. I've measured out my line where I want the top of it so that I have just the right amount of space underneath it for the fuse and the bus bars that will connect to the battery. And I know it's a long distance here, and I probably could have kept this AC panel down a little bit, but I was also considering in the future if I have to move this charge controller up, I have room for another battery underneath here as well. So if we need more storage space long term. Anyways, for now, we'll put it right here and I'll show you how I go about that. I'm just gonna use some drywall screws with some washers on them, and we're going to mount into this 1/2-inch plywood. Probably will drill out the top holes, and I have some M5 machine screws that I'll use on the top holes, but the bottom holes are really hard access inside the bottom of the charge controller, so I'll just leave those as screws. And yeah, so we'll show you that. All right, here goes nothing. Adjust that. There you go, you can actually see what I'm doing. Now that I got the bottom 2 anchor points, I'll go back and add washers to these. Just didn't have enough room to slip it in with the washer on. Do them one at a time, and then this won't fall. So then next, I'm going to connect the AC to the panel. So that's the AC out from the charge controller to the panel. You'll see here I have it in 3/4 inch conduit, and this MPP kit comes with the plastic grommet kit to do that. Just have to shorten these, strip some wire, and connect those up. You'll notice I have black, white, red at the electrical store, hardware store that I bought the wiring from. They didn't have the white, black, and green for the ground. So in this case, I'll be using red for ground. I have that wired as such in the breaker panel, and I'll put a label on here so that anybody else working on this knows what I did. And yeah, so, and then once we have that wired in, then I have some clips to secure this in here. And yeah, so that's the next step. Okay, a reminder, this is 120 volt single phase. So I have my line, neutral, and in this case ground. And I wanted a covered ground because this has a ground neutral bond inside this. I'm not ground neutral bonding at my AC breaker panel. I'm
relying on this system when it's in battery mode to do that for me. And that way there, if I ever intend on powering this from the grid, my only source of ground neutral bond is in this panel. I don't risk having current over ground, but anyways, in case it did happen, I wanted the ground to be coated as well. So I'm just using the needle nose just to make sure I'm all the way up in there. And I'll tighten these down so I have ground on the right, neutral in the middle, and line on the left. And then these other three here on the left, that's where this controller could have AC in. And so that's where you could use that. These in here on the left are the AC input. And that's where you can power from like a generator, or like I said, from the grid if you wanted to. We'll probably do generator. I'll wire an outlet to the outside of the building with some like 10-2 or something, and then I can connect the small 1,000-watt generator that we have to here. And say in the winter, if we don't have enough sunlight and the battery starts getting low, then this system will take care of charging your battery for you. You do want to make sure you have I've been reading, your generator should be an inverter style generator, so that it produces a nice clean sine wave energy power signal to these, or else they can get a little bit wonky. Anyways, making sure all these are good and tight, testing that they don't pull out, and snug that down, and we're done. So that's the AC in, sorry, AC out, my apologies. And next will be the battery. To do the battery, I'm going to mount the bus bars and the fuse. I have a 200 amp T-class fuse that'll be connected to the positive side here. That way, if anything was to happen with this battery, a runaway situation on that, it would burn that fuse out and protect the rest of the household and protect this unit here.
Okay, so I am now going to size and wire up the battery to the charge controller. So I've already went ahead and mounted the fuse and the positive bus bar and the negative bus bar. And I just took my 2 feet of 2-aught gauge cable that'll connect all these to the charge controller and marked them all with the paint marker so that I knew where to cut. Went ahead and cut those with the side cutters. I got some heat shrink here. I have my all copper ring connectors, and those will just go on here like this. And then I have a stamp crimper that we will use to crimp these on. And then we can go ahead and connect it all up. So positive will go from the positive terminal to the fuse, from the fuse to the bus bar, from the bus bar up to the charge controller. Negative will go from the negative to the bus bar to the negative terminal on the charge controller. The point of the bus bars is I will be able to connect additional wire from this to a 48 volt to 12 volt step down converter that will let us run the 12 volt outlets that we spoke about for the water pump and the fridge. There we go. Crimped. And give her the old tug test. Not going anywhere. Yeah.
Then we'll do the heat shrink. Okay, now I'm connecting the positive wire to the fuse, 200 amp T-class fuse, and later I'll connect the other end of this wire to the battery, but I'll show you how that goes with a resistor. At this time I'm just connecting it to the fuse, and this fuse did not need ring terminals. It just had an Allen key crimp connection, and just sizing that just to make sure it will still reach the battery terminal there. And next I'm connecting the other wire on the other side of the fuse, and that will run to the bus bar. Now I'm connecting the positive wire to the charge controller, and you can see here I'm using the grommet kit that was included with the MPP solar charge control inverter kit, and securing that down so that that's nice and secure. And then the other end of this wire will connect to the bus bar. Now I'm just going to install the safety covers on the fuse and also on the bus bar, positive bus bar. I'm done with that wiring. And next here I am wiring the negative into the charge controller, tightening up that grommet, and the other end of this will go to the negative bus bar, tighten that down and follow that with the connection of the negative terminal of the battery to the negative bus bar. I'll install that cover and the battery and charge controller will be wired together. I should mention, to fit the terminals onto this EG4 battery, the 2-watt ring terminals were a little bit too wide, so I had to grind a little bit off each side of the terminal, and so then I was able to fit those ring terminals onto the battery terminals. Once I did that, they secured in nice and snug. Went around and made sure everything was tight, and then ready to turn the system on. Okay, I got the cover on the charge controller. Negative's connected to the bus bar and into the charge controller. Positive is connected to the bus bar and to the fuse. And the only thing that I need to do now is pre-charge the capacitors in the charge controller. And the way you do that is with a resistor. And so I'll show you how to do that. You basically attach 1/2 of the resistor to the terminal of the battery, 1/2 of the resistor to the cable. That'll slowly charge up the capacitors so you don't get a big spark when you go and connect these, permanently, and lug it down. So I'm going to try that now, and it's probably the most nerve-wracking part of it right now. So we'll see what happens. Okay. Okay, here goes pre-charging. Small, tiny little spark. And just give that a second or two. And go ahead and connect this up. I don't know if there's a certain amount of time you got to do this in. I know the capacitors will bleed off power over time. But let's say you got a minute or two to get this all plugged down. That's good and tight. No alarms on the battery. That's always a good sign. Flashing the run light. Let's See what happens. Powering it on. There's that beep everybody warns about. All right. I'm going to try a few loads here now. I'm going to go up and turn the panel on, so I'll cruise you on up here. There you go, you can kind of see what I'm doing there. There we go. Let's go try some lights.
Yeah, so this has been about 10 hours, 12 hours since we connected up our solar system. It's now running well, complete. I'll just walk you through what I ended up finishing doing since the last video, where I was mounting the bus bars and the fuses. I got the connection into the charge controller and inverter done. I mounted the panel back on. I connected the solar arrays, the two solar arrays, array number 2 and array number 1. Both are the 3 panels each. And we had a slight issue with one wiring in this circuit for this bedroom. So we had a little pinch in a wire, rewired that. That was done. And otherwise, the AC side has been working great. You can see we have our lights working here. We've went around and tested every outlet, inside and out. Bedrooms work as well. These are all 9-watt dimmable LED slim lights, and so they're not using a lot of energy as well. So that's nice. Bathroom works well so far, fan and everything. I still have to vent that to the outside. But anyways, yeah, I'm happy with it so far. In 2 hours, it charged from the 51 volts that we brought it up to the 54 volts that I'm going to keep it at yesterday. And then it went down to 53 volts last night and back up to 54 volts by 9 a.m. this morning. So really impressed with it so far. Obviously no big loads on it yet. Been charging the drill battery, our batteries, the lights. Haven't really been using it a great deal yet, but it'll be interesting to see what happens when we have a fridge on it and a water pump and that sort of thing, the heavier loads that this system will handle. I think it'll handle it no problem, but will be interesting to see. What's left to do, I got to mount the safety cover on the panel and then the door for that, and go around to all these switches and outlets and mount the cover plates on all those. So that I'll get that done today. And that'll be it for this trip. That'll be it for this weekend.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.